Welcome back to Hear Me Out Sports. Here in Week 6, we're covering quarterbacks. Let's run it. Alright, so before I jump into my review, I'm just going to forewarn everybody that this week is going to be kind of rough. There's some injuries. It's bye week, which means we got 4 quarterbacks out right there. So we are going to struggle. To help you all out, I'm going to try to tell you who I would start, even though I don't think that they're going to break the 19 points. This might be like they're going to break 15 points, but they're the safe option and someone to play, especially if you're looking at those 2 quarterback leagues. So without further ado, let's jump into the Week 5 review where we were the exact same percent as last week, 59.38%. Not great. We're aiming to get above 60 right now. But let's cover our hits, misses, and close calls. Hits, Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady. We had Matthew Stafford as a bench. Sounds counterintuitive, but because he hasn't been ultra productive, it's only fitting that we had him bench. Tom Brady, he is finally breaking out of his shell. We're seeing him come to life. I like it. He's getting some full strength there, but we'll cover him more later. Geno Smith and Kyler Murray, there's some misses. Geno Smith consistently proving me wrong, so I got some things to say when we get to his game later on in the video. Kyler Murray, he's been very consistent in that he's broken the threshold just about every week. He did not happen to do so, though, in Week 5, so that was a bit of a letdown. Some of the close calls, Joe Burrow almost made it. He did not, so that kind of hurt our average. Tom Brady barely made it. And then Jimmy G, he was close again. Better than last week, but still was unable to break the threshold. I do like Jimmy G, though, at that spot. Now let's jump into Thursday Night Football, where we got the Washington Commanders versus the Chicago Bears. Carson Wentz, man, he is hard to predict. He had a decent Week 5. I'm still putting him as a fringe, but it's mainly because Chicago doesn't have the greatest defense in the world. They are averaging 17.3 points per game given up to opposing quarterbacks. With Carson Wentz having some of his targets there, I like it. He does have a lot of targets. And so I'm just going to start him. I'm expecting him to get around those 19 points, but I'm hoping it's above 19 and not below. Chicago Bears, Justin Fields. I will say I do like the direction they are heading. It seems like he's getting more and more pass attempts. He had 21 in the last game, and that's ridiculous compared to his earlier games where he was averaging like 17 or 11 or something like that. So we're building up here, and I do like to see it. He's also really good on the feet. In Week 5, he had 47 yards rushing, but only two TDs so far on the season, so he's not yet there. I need to see some more production out of him, and that will come with more opportunities, so I hope they can adjust their offense accordingly. Now, let's head over to San Francisco, where we have the 49ers versus Atlanta Falcons. We got Jimmy G. I am putting him in the start column for this week. He was close in Week 5, as we mentioned. He got 18.02 points. He has some decent targets there, and he had 30 pass attempts. So it's not like he's dealing with, some Justin Fields sort of numbers, but he does need to see more completions. Given that Atlanta allows 19.6 points per game, that's why I have him in that start column. I hope he can make do with that and be able to pass and hit some of these guys like Debo or Brandon Ayuk and be able to see some good production out of them. Seems like they're also getting Travis Kelce more and more involved as well. Atlanta, they're going against a very hard San Francisco defense. They could be number 1. I know they're number 1 as far as allowing points to the quarterback, which is not something you want to see in the matchup. He's only broken the threshold once. He is a decent option in the sense that there are so many people who are out or hurt. So I guess if you need to start him, sure, I think he might be around the 15 points, but I'm just not confident with that defense he's going against. All right, now we got the New England Patriots versus the Cleveland Browns. Bailey Zappi coming out, and he actually looked good despite his points. I think most of it actually had to do with the fact that they blew out the Detroit Lions. Rest in peace. But that means that they turned more towards the running game. So he wasn't able to really be used to his full potential. I think he'll have a better matchup going against the Cleveland Browns, and there might be more of a competition there, which might force Bailey Zappi to throw the ball a lot more. And I hope he can break the 15 points, but I don't think he'll break the 19 points. So he's a sit for me. Jacoby Brissett, he's a fringe player as well. Week 5, he looked good with 21 of 34 passes completed, 230 yards, 1 TD, And he's starting to use Amari Cooper and David Njoku more, which is great to see, but it still wasn't enough. And for that reason, I've got him in the sit column. Heading to Green Bay, where we got the Jets versus the Packers. Zach Wilson, he's looked all right. I'd throw him into that fringe start. So I think he's going to be between 15 and 19 points if you got him and you don't have many other good options. Sure, play him. He looked good through the air and on the ground. He's still not getting the same opportunity as we saw with Joe Flacco, who had 57 attempts in like his first 2 games or something ridiculous like that. So if we could see more opportunity there and more production, I will start Zach Wilson in future weeks. But they're also going against a tough Green Bay Packers defense, who only allows 12.7 points per game. Green Bay, we got Aaron Rodgers in the bench column again. He still has yet to break the threshold. The volume isn't really there. He's got 30. I mean, the volume is there. The production is less there. He had 39 attempts in week 5 and still had 2 TDs, but just wasn't enough. And I need to see him break that threshold before I put him in the start column. Again, if he's someone you got, you don't have many other options, sure, play him. Let's head over to Indianapolis, where we got the Colts versus the Jaguars. Still hopeful for Trevor Lawrence. I am also putting him in this column of, yeah, sure, start him if you got him, but I don't think he's going to break the 19 points. We need to see less interceptions out of him, and we need to see more TDs out of him. Looked good at the beginning of the season and has gone down in the last couple of games, but they still have an all right offense that they're running there. Now, Indianapolis Colts, Matt Ryan, coming off that lackluster Week 5, where everyone was disappointed Thursday night. I want to see more. He has yet to break the threshold, and he's going against a good Jacksonville Jaguars defense. So, because they're not a high-scoring offense, they're in the sit column. Or he's in the sit column, I should say. Now let's head over to New Orleans, where we got the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Saints. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, I think he does have a super safe floor, so that's why I'm mainly starting him. He doesn't have an unbelievably high ceiling. It's nothing crazy like we've seen from some of these other quarterbacks, but he is finding more connection with his tight end there, Hayden Hurst. But they are playing a tougher New Orleans defense, so he still start. I think he's going to be kind of around maybe 20 points, so nothing super special, but a start nonetheless. New Orleans, you got Andy Dalton there. He just doesn't have enough opportunity, efficiency, or big plays yet. And with Cincinnati being a number 5 defense against the quarterback, it's a little bit concerning. He needs some of his starting targets back, too. We got Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, and Chris Olave now with a concussion. So they're all in the injury column. Now, we'll see if any of them can return, but Chris Olave is kind of the most likely if he can pass that concussion protocol. Let's head over to the Ravens versus Giants game, where we got Lamar Jackson. You can't bench him, especially given how high of a ceiling he has. It's just hard. It's just hard to bench him. So I got him in the start column. Daniel Jones, on the other hand, I have him sat. There's a lot of injury in that New York receiver core, and I think it's just going to make him struggle just enough. But let's keep in mind that Baltimore, they allow a lot of points to opposing quarterbacks. They're actually ranked number 31, second worst. So they're giving up a lot of points to that opposing quarterback. But I guess the other upside also is that they're going against the Ravens, which means that they're probably going to be playing from behind, which means they're going to have to rely more on that passing game. Now we got Tampa Bay versus Pittsburgh. Tampa Bay, we're starting to see old Tom here, which I like to see. 2 weeks in a row now he's broken out a threshold. Tampa Bay is almost returning to their full strength, which means that he has those targets down the field, and I like to see it. He's been using his tight ends more too, and they've been proving that they can play. Pittsburgh has a number 28 defense, giving up 22.2 points per game, which is a good sign for Tom Brady. For the Steelers end, it's a fringe for me, but Kenny Pickett's still probably going to be a sit. He had a decent game in Week 5 for having no touchdowns, and he had 52 attempts, which I like to see, but it was mainly because it was a comeback game. They were down, and they were forced to pass. I expect this game to also be kind of that same scenario where they're going to be forced to rely more on the passing game just to come back from a point deficit. Now we got the Carolina Panthers versus the Los Angeles Rams. PJ Walker, there's no explanation needed. I've already said in all my other videos that Carolina seems to be looking horrible. But if you do need an explanation, here's some of his past. Okay, some of his past stats is in his starts there in Carolina, he's had 8 interceptions as compared to his 2 touchdowns. So he is not very productive or reliable. Los Angeles Rams, on the other hand, Matthew Stafford, he is a fringe just because I think Cooper Kupp can tear up this Carolina defense. But it is a all right defense. It's kind of mediocre, so they could cause some problems. I expect him to be around that 15 to 19 point range. So, again, start him if you got him, but if you have better options, put them in. Arizona Cardinals, we got Kyler Murray in the start column. He kind of let us down week 5, but he is still that dual threat. We also got the Seattle Seahawks with Geno Smith. Listen, he's proven me wrong enough times that he is a fringe player for me, as Arizona gives up around 20 points per game. Not many passes, but he's still productive in those passes that he is pushing out. And he seems to be getting better, and he's finding DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett more, which I like to see. Now let's go over to Buffalo Bills versus Kansas City Chiefs, where we got Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, and this is my matchup of the week. Just 2 stellar quarterbacks. I don't need to explain much or vie for any of them to be your starting quarterback. Josh Allen, he doesn't seem to be slowing down. There are some injury concerns, but he's still being able to spread the love around. As for Patrick Mahomes, we'll need to see more. I think we're going to see more in the passing game just because I believe they'll be down and they'll be forced to kind of have to do some big plays here. But he's capable, and their whole team is capable. And he's built that connection with Travis Kelce over the last couple games. It's looked brilliant, especially last game. But let's keep in mind, Buffalo, they have a great defense. They're number 2 against the quarterback. So that's what we like to see. Now, let's head over to some disappointing games. Some showtime here with Dallas Cowboys versus Philadelphia Eagles. I think Eagles are going to take this one. Cooper Rush, he's going against a tough defense. He is a consistently safe option, so if you need someone, go ahead and put him there. But Philadelphia only allows 12.2 points per game to those opposing quarterbacks. He is coming off a bad game, so maybe he can prove himself, especially considering the fact that he's fighting for a starting spot against Dak Prescott, who they've kind of delayed his comeback, which is interesting to see. But let's see what he can do with this potentially last game he has as a start. Philadelphia, you got Jalen Hurts. Again, not much explaining here. It's a good Dallas defense, so they might cause some problems, but he's hard to stop. 4 of his 5 games, he's been above 24 points, and that's exactly what we need out of a starting quarterback. Now let's head to this wonderful Monday Night Showtime game where we got the Denver Broncos versus the Los Angeles Chargers. I expect the Broncos to let us down again in another Showtime game, especially considering the fact that Russell Wilson has a suspected shoulder injury that could really cause problems. And they're just not an impressive offense, and I feel like they have some terrible play calling at times. Chargers, on the other hand, Justin Herbert, yeah, sure, he's 3 for 5, which isn't super high on the confidence scale, but his floor was 13.58 points. So I'm not going to bench him. He's a safe option. That's a decent floor. I'll accept that if I have to. Much better than single digit numbers. But in those 3 games that he has broken the threshold, they've all been over 20 points. So he's doing all right. Like I said, he's just a safe option. That's going to close us out. We got a bye with the Lions, the Raiders, the Titans, and the Texans this week, which I probably would only start 2 of those quarterbacks, if any of them. But listen, like us, follow, subscribe, and especially comment below, because if I keep doing terrible in some of these videos, like 59%, I'm going to be giving away cash, and that's going to people who comment on our videos and who create discussion. We like to hear it. We like to debate. We like to see what your thoughts are. So comment below, and we will catch you next week when we cover quarterbacks again in week 7. So with that, logging off.